With the NFL draft, with NFL free agency, with the schedule release, with all of that in the rearview mirror, it's time to start looking forward. It's time to start planning. It's time to start preparing. It's time to start getting ready for your 2024 fantasy football draft. So over the next several weeks, Basement Brewed Fantasy Football is going to be covering every single NFL team and what to expect from them in 2024 fantasy football, and we're going to begin with my beloved Green Bay Packers. So let's talk Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Christian Watson, Jayden Reed, and everybody else that is going to be wearing a green and yellow jersey this year that's important for fantasy football, all right here, right now, on episode 17 of Inside the 20 by Basement Brewed Fantasy Football. The Green Bay Packers are entering year 6 of the Matt LaFleur era, a half-decade of successful football where the Green Bay Packers have won 68% of their games and they've made the playoffs in 4 of 5 seasons that Matt LaFleur has been the team's head coach, including their first year under new franchise quarterback Jordan Love in 2023. Not surprisingly, Vegas sportsbooks are expecting continued success for the Green Bay Packers in year 6 under Matt LaFleur. They are favored to win 10 or more games this year with minus 180 odds of making the playoffs. They have the second best odds of winning the NFC North. They are tied for the 4th best odds to win the NFC Conference, and they're tied for the 7th best odds of winning the whole dang thing, winning the Super Bowl. And if all of that wasn't enough, Coach Matt LaFleur himself has the 4th best odds of winning Coach of the Year. Now, from a fantasy football standpoint, which is why we're all here, Green Bay's offense is generally one that you want to target in your 2024 fantasy football drafts, especially considering Matt LaFleur's offenses have finished top 15 in scoring in each of the 5 years that he's been the team's head coach, including their first season under Jordan Love. They didn't skip a beat going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love in 2023, finishing 12th in scoring and 11th in offensive yards. And that's especially encouraging when you remember that Green Bay had the youngest team in the entire NFL last year, especially in the wide receiver and the tight end room, where Jordan Love was surrounded by first and second year players in the NFL. Christian Watson, Jayden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. Every single one of those guys was a first or second year player that was drafted in either 2022 or 2023. Plenty of room for growth as these players continue to gain experience and progress in their NFL careers. Now, heading into the 2024 season, almost everyone from Green Bay's 2023 offense that was already successful, almost everybody is coming back, and they're coming back healthy. That's the other thing I forgot to mention is last year's Packers were pretty banged up. Luke Musgrave, who's the team's number 1 tight end, he missed 6 games. Christian Watson, who's the team's number 1 wide receiver, missed 8 games. He missed half the season, right? So we had Jordan Love, who was starting his first year in the NFL, and he played half of the season without his number 1 wide receiver. And then, of course, you have trusty running back Aaron Jones, who also missed 6 games, and yet the Green Bay Packers still finished 12th and 11th, 12th in scoring and 11th in offensive yards. Now, when I say that almost everyone from the Packers 2023 offense is returning, the one that isn't is, and I'm trying to say this without crying as a Packer fan, Aaron Jones, right? After 7 loyal seasons in Green Bay, the Packers did not re-sign Aaron Jones. They let him walk out the door. He walked all the way across the border over to Minnesota and signed with the division rival Minnesota Vikings, so he will not be back. However, as much as I love Aaron Jones, and I do love Aaron Jones, last year's Packers finished 12th in scoring and 11th in offensive yards with Aaron Jones missing 6 games. And they didn't just let him walk out the door without bringing in a replacement. They went ahead and signed Josh Jacobs, who was the 24th overall pick in the 2019 draft, who has plenty of experience as a workhorse in the NFL. And they spent the 88th overall pick, which is a 3rd round pick, pretty expensive for a running back, on USC's MarShawn Lloyd, who should bring plenty of speed to the table. So most of last year's offense is coming back, and they really shouldn't miss a beat in the backfield moving forward. So TLDR, last year's Green Bay Packers offense was very good. They were above average. This year's Green Bay Packers should be, at worst, about the same as last year, which was an above average offense. And at best, and more realistically, this year's Green Bay Packers should be even better than they were in 2023 when they already finished 12th in scoring and 11th in offensive yards. This is an offense that you want to target in your 2024 fantasy football drafts. Now, that being said, there are some very, very noteworthy concerns that need to be addressed or at least considered before your draft. Are you a software wizard? A code ninja? A forge master, or maybe even just a mad scientist? Then come build your career ladder with Infinity Labs, an award-winning technology company, best place to work, and business of the year with best-in-class benefits and compensation. Visit i-labs.tech. That's i-labs.tech today, where you can learn more about Infinity Labs, our expanding national presence, and why the status quo has no hold on us. Now, first and foremost, when it comes to red flags or fantasy football concerns for any running back, wide receiver, or tight end that's going to be wearing a green and yellow jersey this year is sheer volume, right? We've talked plenty about the Packers offense being an above average unit, but it's also one of the slowest offenses in the NFL. Last year's Packers finished 31st in offensive drives, and they finished 21st in offensive plays executed. Matt LaFleur's offenses have never finished higher than 15th in passing attempts in any of the 5 years that he's been the team's head coach, and that's despite playing 4 years with a Hall of Fame quarterback, and they never finished higher than 15th in passing attempts. They also never finished higher than 12th in rushing attempts in any of the 5 years that Matt LaFleur has been the head coach. In fact, they finished 16th or lower in rushing attempts in 3 of 5 seasons that Matt LaFleur has been the team's head coach. So generally speaking, the Packers offense is above average, but there's not a lot of volume to go around compared to the other 31 teams in the NFL. And that's a little bit concerning when you consider how many mouths the Green Bay Packers have to feed on offense. How many noteworthy names deserve touches in that offense. We have Christian Watson, Jayden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs, MarShawn Lloyd, and A.J. Dillon. Okay, that's 9 noteworthy names that you could argue deserve touches, albeit in one of the slowest offenses in the NFL, one of the slowest offenses that already doesn't provide very much volume. Okay, and at the team level, having that many mouths to feed, that's great news. You want to have that many weapons. Your offense as a whole should be successful. But at the micro level, at the individual level, which is where we focus on fantasy football, that is where fantasy football managers could start to see some weekly frustration, as Green Bay Packers players may not receive the volume necessary on a weekly basis to be a consistent fantasy football contributor. That's where we start to see offenses that offer boom or bust type of weeks, where it might be Christian Watson's turn to score 15 plus PPR points, and then it's Jayden Reed's turn, and then it's Romeo Doubs' turn, and then it's Luke Musgrave's turn. There could be some boom or bust tendencies among the individuals in Green Bay's offense. Now, all of that being said, we do need to give the Green Bay Packers credit, right? What they lack in volume pretty much every year, they often make up for with efficiency pretty much every year. Despite last year finishing 31st in drives and 21st in offensive plays, Green Bay still managed to finish 6th in yards per play and 9th in percentage of drives that resulted in putting points on the scoreboard. Last year, despite the fact that they finished 15th in passing attempts, they also finished 12th in passing yards, 3rd in passing touchdowns, and 3rd in passing touchdown percentage, or the percentage of pass attempts that ended up in the end zone. And despite never finishing better than 15th in pass attempts during the Matt LaFleur era, they have finished 14th or better in passing touchdowns every single year, including campaigns where they finished 4th, 3rd, and 1st in passing touchdowns. Okay, so what they may lack in volume, they consistently make up for with efficiency. Now, one last thing to mention about the Green Bay Packers offense is that they did a really, really good job of getting into the red zone, getting into scoring position last year, finishing 5th in the NFL in red zone attempts. However, they struggled a little bit to punch it across the goal line once they got there, finishing 9th in red zone touchdowns despite finishing 5th in red zone attempts. And more importantly, they finished 20th in red zone percentage, or the percentage of trips to the red zone that resulted in touchdowns. They finished 20th in that metric. Now, to be fair, I did it again. Go ahead, Tanner, do the to be fair thing.
Oh, to be fair.
To be fair. To be fair.
To be fair.
To be fair.
To be fair.
Oh, to be fair.
To be fair, Luke Musgrave missed 6 games. Natural-born touchdown scorer Christian Watson missed 8 games, a guy who scored 14 touchdowns in his 23-game career. And Aaron Jones, a guy who scored 56 touchdowns over his last 74 games, he missed 6 games as well. So it's fair to expect struggles with efficiency when you're missing some of your most important touchdown scorers. And again, we also need to remember that, once again, Jordan Love was surrounded by inexperienced first and second year players. That's the sort of thing that can absolutely show up when you get to the red zone, when you get to crunch time, and that field just gets that much shorter because you don't have as much field to work with. That's the type of thing that can show up when you're working with inexperienced first and second year pass catchers. So TLDR, when it comes to the red zone, they did a good job of getting there. They just didn't do a very good job of punching it in. And there's plenty of room for growth in that efficiency metric when A, you have your players coming back and coming back healthy. B, you have your players coming back with 1 year of added experience on their NFL resume. There's room for growth with red zone efficiency, which is obviously great news for fantasy football purposes. So, what should we expect from the individuals? What should we expect from the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, and the tight ends on the Green Bay Packers in 2024 fantasy football? Growing up, one of my favorite things to do was play Madden on my PlayStation, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. And when I say play Madden, what I really mean is simulate the games and simulate the seasons, because my favorite part was managing the team, scouting prospects, doing the draft, making trades, signing free agents, and everything that goes into managing a football team and leading a franchise to glory, building it from the ground up. And if that's your type of deal, if you love that sort of thing, you're going to absolutely love GM Dynasty, which is a simulated football game that I recently started playing and instantly fell in love with. With realistic game planning mechanics and immersive features, GM Dynasty puts you in the hot seat of sports management. And it's not just a game. It's a simulation of the real deal. I invite you to get your free team and compete in Basement Brewed Fantasy Football's upcoming tournament, where there's going to be prizes for whoever wins the thing. Register your account on gmdynasty.com, and when you do, join the Basement Brewed Fantasy Football contest using the link that we left for you in the show notes. At the quarterback level, it's wheels up. It is wheels up for Jordan Love, who is teed up for another great year after finishing as Fantasy's QB5 last year. He's entering year 2 as a starting quarterback in the NFL with a healthy supporting cast, a young supporting cast that added another year of progression and experience to their resume, and he has a lot of weapons, a lot of mouths to feed with Christian Watson, Jayden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs, MarShawn Lloyd, A.J. Dillon. A lot of places where Jordan Love can deposit the football, and that's good news for fantasy football. Now, at the running back level, there's some noted volume concerns with 3 capable running backs in a slow offense that's never finished better than 12th in rushing attempts in half a decade under Matt LaFleur. And likewise, at the wide receiver level and at the tight end level, there are volume concerns in a slow offense that's never finished better than 15th in passing attempts in half a decade under Matt LaFleur. And you have 6 very capable pass catchers, and that's not even including the running backs, who accounted for 17% of the team's targets last season. Now, none of this is meant to scare you off of the Green Bay Packers, right? This is an above-average offense that should get even better. This is an offense that we want in our 2024 fantasy football lineups. There's plenty of optimism for Jordan Love, but also specific running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends that are going to be wearing a Packers jersey in 2024. Of course, I covered every single one of them, and I covered covered every single one of them in tremendous detail in my 2024 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Now, the 2024 Draft Guide is a resource that, of course, offers rankings and tiers for your fantasy football draft, but more importantly, it also offers detailed 2024 previews for every single fantasy football relevant player in 2024. It offers an interactive ADP tracker so that you know the exact right time to draft the player that you're targeting. It's one of many league-winning resources that 300 plus BBFF customers are using to outsmart their friends and dominate their leagues in 2024 and beyond. Now, if you would like to gain access to our resources and our amazing online community or our Discord server, then join us at basementbroodff.com/signup, or just use the link that we left for you in the show notes. But I do recommend signing up with us before the first of the month, because people who sign up in May are going to be paying less than people who sign up in June, who are going to be paying less than people who sign up in July, August, September. There's early bird discounts baked into every single month. So join us before the first of the month and the price goes up. And as a thank you for supporting my small but growing business, as a thank you for supporting my childhood dream, enter promo code INSIDE20 using the number inside the 20. If you enter that promo code at checkout, you're going to get 10% off your first year with Basement Brood Fantasy Football. If you enjoyed today's episode, then I promise you are going to enjoy all of our recent episodes of Inside the 20, where we've been discussing the shifting fantasy football landscape as a result of the NFL draft, free agency, coaching changes inside the NFL, and you can find all of them on the Inside the 20 playlist right here on the Basement Brood Fantasy Football YouTube channel. And if you like this content in general, I have 3 different ways that you can get more of it. Number 1 is to subscribe to the Basement Brood Fantasy Football YouTube channel, where we post episodes every single Friday. Number 2, subscribe to the Basement Brood Fantasy Football newsletter using the link that we left for you in the show notes of this episode. And number 3, consider purchasing a subscription to basementbroodff.com, where you're going to be able to use our analysis, our cheat sheets, and our online community to outsmart your friends, dominate your leagues, take down DFS contests, cash in on NFL bets, and a lot more. That's all for right now, but come back every Friday for more league-wrecking fantasy football insights. I'll see you on the fantasy football field next Friday. Cheers. This brew's for you.